We're intentionally opening up the audio so me and Dave can say some crazy shit. Crazy stuff.
My lips are sealed.
Yeah, my opinion, Dave, is we're not doing football on schedule.
Oh, definitely not. The question is, what is the schedule? The way, yeah, everybody says play in a empty stadium. Okay, tell the players that they want to. Do they want to play? Do they want to have? How do you have social distancing in that football?
It was a hawk. So yesterday I saw a bird try to swoop down and take a duck, and the duck, a baby duck, and the duck mother was like panicking and frantic. And now I see that it's actually a hawk. I was like, damn, like what kind of bird could snatch a baby duck?
Is this an Aesop fable, or is this something that actually happened?
No, something actually happened. I watched it yesterday, and like, and the hawk just nearly got it, but then it was like, it picked it off the ground, but it didn't have a good enough clutch on it. So, but yeah.
I saw a peacock fall from a tree the other day. How's that? Does that?
They're mean.
Strange bird stories. It looked. I thought it was dead. I thought it was dead, and it just knocked out for about 3 minutes, and it got up and walked away.
All right, phone off, Dave, just in case you get a call. My phone was popping yesterday, Dave.
It was popping it.
Everybody wants to know what the Dolphins gonna do.
Well, we're about to tell the people, aren't we, Omar?
Yes, we are. All right, whenever you guys are ready. NFL Draft. Well, the NFL Draft is right around the corner, Dolphin fans. Teams will be restocking their roster with young and, more importantly, cheap talent. That's what the draft's all about. Hope is in the air, and it's important to sell it with every draft pick. And for the Miami Dolphins, they've got twice the usual bounty, 14 selections in the 2020 NFL Draft, and 3 first-round picks. We've got a 5, we've got an 18, we've got a 26, and 6 picks in the draft's top 70 selections. It's time for Chris Grier to make it rain with draft picks and talent. Are you excited, Dave?
I'm pumped, Omar. What else do we have going on in our lives right now, right? I mean, I've about binged all my Netflix that I can. I'm ready for whatever sports is offering. Here we go.
Did you watch Ozark?
I did watch Ozark.
Excellent, excellent. I'm looking for something comparable. So if you know anything.
I didn't like the Tiger King, though. I mean, I'll watch the Jerry Springer show if I want to watch stuff like that.
Yeah, you know what? I fought my wife against it, and then I kept working and hearing the Tiger King, and it just got crazy, and I was like, okay, I got to go see what's going on. But anyway, this draft is something Dolphin fans have to see what's going on. It's going to be very interesting, Dave, from the standpoint nobody has been able to really get their hands on these draft prospects, Dave. COVID-19 pandemic has impacted this draft and will possibly impact football in general. Do you feel like it's going to be a hindrance to the Dolphins drafting?
Well, it's a hindrance in the normal sense to everybody's drafting. So, yeah, and since the Dolphins have more draft picks, you can make the case it's bad. You know, it hurts them worse than anybody. I'm not going that route, though. Everybody's playing the same rules. They've known what they were doing since last March as far as investing. And Chris Grier said, look, we had our big meeting in December. Everybody's on tape. They got through the combine. They have plenty of information, just as every team does.
Watching them operate at the Senior Bowl, I can tell you they had there's a dining room area in that's really in the center of the hotel that houses the Senior Bowl, and the Dolphins took up the dining room and held interviews there, basically getting their hands on as much draft prospects as they can. And they really did well, quite well there in terms of getting their interviews and sitting down with players. Didn't stop them from meeting a Jordan Love again for the third time, but it'll be interesting to see how it impacts the draft. Let's get to our questions. Our first question comes from Malik Murray, who wants to know, Dave, would you package pick 18 and 26 to secure one of the top four offensive tackles?
Well, the question 18 or 26, not together. But yeah, I'd package an 18 and a third round or something. You could come up, they have so many picks, they can create a package to move up 2 or 3 spots and make sure they get one of the top left tackles in the draft. I absolutely would.
Here's my problem with this draft. I think there are legitimately about 24, 25 first-round picks in this draft. And then you get into a batch of players that will be pushed up. Second-round talents will be pushed up in the first round. And then you've got third-round talents will be pushed up into the second round. Fourth-round talents will be pushed up in the third round. So I think it's important to get as many selections as you possibly can in that top 26. Because obviously some guys are going to sneak in there. But also, what makes me uncomfortable about this draft is that once they pick at 70, then you've got another 71 picks that go by. And by the time you're back on the board in the fourth round, I think a lot of the talent that you want is not going to be there. So I would actually consider primarily the 26th pick. I would consider trading down to acquire more picks from range 70 to 141.
They have 14 picks, Omar. How many picks do you want to have?
By the time you get back on the board in the fourth round, it's going to be nothing but filler left, Dave. I want some of those.
I like this question because it's what I'm thinking, which is they desperately need a left tackle to line up. Okay, yeah. And there are 4 top left tackles by the draftniks like you, by your standards. I'm not a draftnik. And so if the Dolphins' grades are similar, yes, package and move up. It's not going to be an expensive trade. 2 or 3 spots and get a guy you can plug in and play.
Absolutely. Andrew Thomas, who is the best of the left tackle group. Mekhi Becton is another good quality left tackle. But what I do find interesting is Jedrick Wills and Tristan Wirfs, they're right tackles. And I'm not necessarily certain the Dolphins need a right tackle now. If you go draft Tua, then your right tackle turns into your left tackle because he's a left-handed quarterback. So that's a more important position. But it's going to make it a little bit more difficult because everybody knows they need a left tackle. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I think that's sort of predicated based on what's going down with the quarterback.
All right, Omar. Carroll City 86. And you're a Carroll City guy, so I know why you picked this question. He wants to know, with the focus being on QB, if the Dolphins draft any of the available QBs and they don't pan out for whatever reason, injury, intelligence, is this a bad draft?
I know you're going to disagree with me, but I do not go into this draft with my 14 selections and I say QB or bust. Would I like a QB? Absolutely. Would I be comfortable not taking one in the first round and taking one in the second or the third, going with a Jalen Hurts or Jake Fromm? I would be okay with that. I like Jake Fromm. I like Jalen Hurts. There's nothing that says you're the one that pointed out to me. A lot of times in these drafts, it's not the first round pick that becomes a star. It's the guy taken in the later rounds. And I think that's a possibility there. Do I love Tua? Do I want to take Tua at 5? Not trading up, but take him at 5? Yes. Would I take Jordan Love somewhere in the first round? At 5, probably not, but probably at 18 if he's still there. Justin Herbert probably fits in the same category. Do I want him at 5? No, I don't. I want an elite player at 5, but would I take him at 18? Yes, I would. I found it very telling that Chris Greer yesterday in his teleconference said that they have 8 players identified as players who would be great picks at 5. And that, to me, basically defines that he believes that there are 8 elite players in this draft, and probably pushes up some of the
You don't think
quarterbacks.
there's a little smoke coming out of his ears as he's
Nah,
at Omar? You
Chris
don't think
Greer's
we're
not a smoke guy. Chris Greer's not a smoke guy.
Okay. Look, their job, not Draftnik's job, not your job to rate worthy. Their job, their whole careers depend upon falling in love with a quarterback, picking him, developing him, and getting him on the field to win games. Okay, and
How
so
good have they been at that, Dave?
wherever they decide to do that, whether it's the 5th pick with Tua or the Jordan Love or the 2nd round or 3rd round, whatever, wherever, that's their job. Go do your job, okay? They haven't done it the last 3 years. When
Last
you know
decade.
Quarterback, go do your job. That's all I'm saying this draft.
They haven't done it well for the last quarterback they selected. The real quarterback was Ryan Tannehill. You can say whatever you want about the Tannehill experiment and the fact that he was the #1 rated quarterback last season, but it was a failure. It was a waste. So it'll be interesting to see what happens and whether they get the conviction to take a quarterback. Our next question comes from Cody, who wants to know, which draft prospects would you be willing to draft earlier than their value? I'll start this because I do have a man crush list that comes out every year. It's 10 players that I would bang the table for, Dave. And on that is wide receiver, SMU wide receiver James Prochet, who reminds me so much of FIU wide receiver T.Y. Hilton in terms of small, quick release, creates separation, makes tough catches. I think that kid is going to be a phenomenal slot receiver. Probably I would put him in the 3rd round. And then LSU right guard Damian Lewis. Right guard is probably the least valuable position in the entire NFL. Everybody, including Adam Gase, thinks he can go to Publix and go get a right guard. I'm telling you that, yeah, you too, Dave. I'm telling you, Damian Lewis. If you watch LSU and you watch Burrow, just take a couple of looks at Damian Lewis, because they got a whole good NFL line. Damian Lewis, I would argue to you, is better than everybody on that line. He keeps the quarterback clean, and he moves that pocket as a bulldozing power run guy. And that's the type of offensive lineman for me. A lot of people have him projected as a day 3 guy. I definitely take him in day 2.
All right. When we're talking the question, which is, you draft earlier than value, to me, what you're talking is a quarterback you really love. Okay.
Always comes down to the quarterback with Dave.
It's always got to come back to that, Omar. Okay, a Jordan Love, who's been marked down as this draft's gone on. Yep. But as we know, when the drafts happen, usually the quarterbacks come up. Okay, so other than that, I'm going to stick with the value, what the board says. That's why not do all your work and keep it that way. But the quarterback's so valuable, you got to take him ahead of where the board says sometimes.
Yeah, a lot of these quarterbacks will be overdrafted. I was talking to an executive the other day who said he's graded Herbert as a low 1st round grade. Now, he's certain he's going to be a top 10, if not top 15 selection because of quarterback inflation.
Where did he grade Patrick Mahomes a couple years ago, or Lamar Jackson? I wrote a column that nobody knows what they're talking about when it comes to quarterback. And every year I am certain of that more and more. That
I think there are Andy Reeds out there who know exactly what they're talking about.
There's a handful, you're right.
There's a handful of guys, very few, but a handful of guys really know what they're talking about. But I agree with the premise. They're all scared to make this pick, Dave. They're all scared to make the quarterback pick because it basically defines your career. And I would agree with this. I wrote a column.
I would go the other way. State your philosophy. My philosophy is I'm going to draft a quarterback every single year. So if you want to grade me on the quarterback, that's fine. Grade me on the philosophy, though, that we're going to come out with a starting quarterback, a quarterback to groom, maybe even a 3rd quarterback who's really raw, who we're going to try to develop too. But that would be my philosophy, is keep drafting them. And I mean, that's Belichick's, that's you go down the Ron Wolf's with the Green Bay, how they came up with 2 great ones. You can go down the list of guys. Now the Dolphins, they took 1 quarterback since they took Ryan Tannehill, and that was 7th round kid.
Brandon Dowdy.
Dowdy. So what kind of how are you ever going to find a quarterback if you don't take one?
They're terrified of it, Dave. And you know, my quarterback philosophy is don't draft them if you don't love them. You got to have love there.
You're following the Dolphins' philosophy. They obviously haven't loved them.
You're right. You're right on that. Our next question comes from Anthony, who asks, who's the player that is not projected as a first-round talent that if Miami drafts him in the first round, you'd be stoked? Let me just start this based on my evaluations. I've got a top prospect, top 25 prospect, and those are my legitimate first-round talents. And in fact, one of the guys that's on it is not, that's not on it. I would select him in the first round, and that's Michigan center Cesar Ruiz. But first, let me get to the guy, Minnesota safety Antonio Winfield Jr., who I would select with 26. To me, 26 is a very odd, interesting spot because you're going to have to make some tough choices there. If you didn't take an offensive lineman at 18, you're going to have to just pick the best of what's left, the Evan Clevelands, or you're going to have to take one of the top 25 guys. And I'm a firm believer in BPA, so I stick to my BPA, and I say, hey, if I didn't address offensive tackle at 5 or didn't address it at 18, I'm not just going to reach and pick a Juwan James, even though that panned out pretty well for the Dolphins. Juwan James was really a second-round talent that they took him in the first, and because that was what they felt comfortable with, that was such a need. And I don't believe in drafting for need. I believe in drafting BPA because when I look at the Dolphins' history, when they go BPA is when they usually do their best job. They didn't have a need for Jarvis Landry when they selected him in the second round. They had a stable of wide receivers, and Jarvis Landry in a year turned into their best receiver because they went BPA. So I'm selecting BPA. That would be Antonio Winfield Jr. That would be Michigan center Cesar Ruiz. I really like Cesar Ruiz. I think he's a top 30 prospect. He didn't make my top 25 cut, but I would select him, immediately start him at center, move Ted Karras to guard, and then I'm stabilizing the interior of my offensive line. I like that approach.
Omar, we had to turn in our picks for the Sun Sentinel for the first round for the Dolphins. And my second 2 picks were either Joshua Jones or trade up for a tackle, which I would prefer. And the 26th pick was Cesar Ruiz. And I'm saying go hard on the offensive line, especially if you're going for Tua or you're going to get a young quarterback. Over-invest in the offensive line for once and get that settled. So that would be my thought.
I would agree with you. I second that, even though I do not think it fits into the BPA mold. If you select, let's say you draft Tua, just hypothetically, let's throw it out there, and you use your 18 and your 26 to select 2 offensive linemen, you should be set, right? No? Yes? No?
You better.
And then with the rest of the draft, you can address. You got what, 9 other picks? Go fill those. Go select the BPA. So I hear your approach. I'm just a firm believer in you take elite talents when they're presenting themselves. So plenty of changes have come to the AFC East, and I'd like to argue with you, Dave, that the Dolphins presently have just as good a roster as any team in the division. Who's the Patriots starting quarterback, Dave? It's hard to even identify or know. Josh Allen. How much better will Josh Allen be than anybody that they draft in the first round, whether it be Joe Herbert, Justin Love, or Tua Tagovailoa? And I would argue to you, I'm not necessarily certain I'm putting Josh Allen over a Ryan Fitzpatrick if I had one game to win to save my life. That's a tough one for me.
That's Josh Allen's the question. Okay, I'd agree with you, and it depends on how you fall. He's looked really good at times, and he's looked like he's had accuracy problems. Year 3, the end of year 2, he looked pretty good. So we'll see what he is in year 3. But Omar, when you say the Dolphins have as good a roster as anybody, so what? What's that mean in the AFC East right now? The Patriots are redoing things. I'm not going to say they're going to rebuild because I don't believe Belichick's going to rebuild. They'll still be a good team. But do you pick any team over 9 wins in the AFC East? Maybe Buffalo. They're the best team, but I'm not sure. where everybody's in a little bit of a they're in a makeover stage right now.
Definitely. I think that the Jets have probably some of the top playmakers in Le'Veon Bell. If they got some good defensive pieces, if they get their offensive line right, I think they've got a chance. The Bills have the best defense. Well, depending on how you see the Patriots. I think the Patriots have to take a step back defensively because they lost too many pieces in free agency. I mean, teams picked them apart defensively.
How many times have we said that, though, Omar? How many times have we said that, right? Now, they don't have Tom Brady to prop them up, right? I'd agree with that, but we'll see. Okay, Omar, Tony wants to know, is there a realistic chance the Dolphins can win the division?
I think there is. It really comes down to quarterback play, as it does every single season. You never know how Jarrett Stidham is going to play, or Brian Hoyer. Like, really? So you don't know what's going on with the Patriots. I think they've got something up their sleeve. We just don't know what it is yet. Sam Darnold, not a huge fan. Josh Allen, I'm on record. I'm not a fan. He can give you big plays, but he can also miss a lot of big plays. But I think the Dolphins have just as good a chance. You get Ryan Fitzpatrick, a good running back. You get him DeAndre Swift, and I think Jordan Howard is a good running back. But you get him DeAndre Swift and a big offensive line, not even factoring in the quarterback. You just get him a big meat grinding offensive line that can open up running lanes and open up the play action passing game. I think he's got just as much of a chance to do what Chad Pennington did in 2008 as anybody else in the division.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you. They have a chance, as opposed to this time last year. Everybody knew they didn't have a chance. It centers on, is Ryan Fitzpatrick going to turn back into who he was for 15 years, or was last year who he can be for another season or two? I'm not going to. I'm up in the air on that one. I still tend to think
they do have that Ryan Fitzpatrick cycle of life.
It was too good to believe last year. So
we'll
see.
Have this. I've seen this GIF, the Ryan Fitzpatrick cycle of life, where the fan base, he starts winning when unexpected. Fan base gets all excited. Then we come back around, and then it's like the injuries and mediocrity, and then we're right back with a new team doing it all over again.
Yeah,
but I do think benefits him.
We'll see where this takes us. We'll have to see. All right, Chris Buston has an important question. True or false? Ryan Fitzpatrick, here we go, is now the best starting quarterback in the AFC East.
I'm going to have to go with true from this standpoint. I like the veteran presence. I like the fact that he's reunited with Chan Gailey. I like the accuracy that he throws with. I like the pocket presence that he showed that he wasn't really able to show off that much last year because he was always under duress. I like the moxie that he plays with. I like the leadership that he brings.
Why after quarterback, Omar? You're checking every box.
Hey, who's to say?
Quarterback, you got one.
Listen, if they didn't draft the quarterback in the first round, I'm not going to be mad about it. And I'm not, because if you didn't feel it was right for you at this point, more power to you. And I get it. They'll be acting scared, and that's the Dolphins' way. But I would rather do that than settle for a quarterback. And I do believe you can ride with Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Every year, though, Omar, we didn't settle for Deshaun Watson or Mahomes. We didn't settle for Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. We didn't say you can do that every year. There's always something wrong with a quarterback.
They do it every year.
They do it every year. Right. If Ryan Fitzpatrick is the best quarterback in the AFC East, that's a statement on the other quarterbacks more than it is. And look, everybody loves what Ryan Fitzpatrick did last year. Everybody loves that last drive in New England, 75 yards down the field in Foxborough against the number one defense to win the game. I get all that, but give me Josh Allen over Ryan Fitzpatrick.
The problem with Ryan Fitzpatrick has always been when the stakes are raised, he shrivels. And we shall see if that's the case, because everybody's aware that he's the clear-cut starter this season. It's not going to be some rookie unless he gets injured. They've handed the keys to the castle to Ryan Fitzpatrick and have gone and gotten him his career coach. to be his offensive coordinator. I mean, and this is weird, but I'm comfortable riding or dying with
Look, I like Chan Gailey too. I like Ryan Fitzpatrick. But when you say career coach, they never won together. They never won a playoff game.
Oh, they got 10 wins with the Jets. They didn't get to the playoffs, but they got 10 wins.
Okay, they didn't get. What's the goal of the season? Let's get 10 wins or let's get to the playoffs. Okay, our next question comes from Max Rupp. Are we at a bigger disadvantage than other teams in OTAs being virtual, considering all the rookies we'll have in the free agent acquisitions? I feel like this is not a great year to do a big turnaround with limited camp.
Well, I think it's a disadvantage from an offensive standpoint because not everybody's going to know or understand or be able to grasp or have on-field sort of understanding of Chan Gailey's offense. But your quarterback will. And I think he's the guy who can drive and make everything go. So I'm cool with it. Yeah, you're not going to have the consistency that the Bills have, but, everybody's going to be on the same playing field, so I'm okay with that. But Brian Flores, the defense, should be consistent. In fact, he added pieces that are familiar with his defense. Even guys like Shaq Lawson, he's played for the defensive line coach before at college at Clemson. So, I think it's going to be a lot easier for the defense, as will it be easier for every defense. So, yeah, are the Dolphins at a disadvantage offensively? Probably.
Let me piggyback off that question with something I've been thinking of, and I'll throw this out at you, Omar. No training camp in July, August. Who knows when it gets come back? The season is either going to be shortened or practices compressed. It's not going to be a normal year, right? I think we all can all agree on that. Meaning, it's almost like, to me, this rookie class will be redshirted. Okay, some of them will be on the field, the really good ones, but even more than usual, there'll be a developmental year for the rookies. Do you take some of this draft capital, knowing that, and move it strategically into next year, knowing that you're going to get a limited rookie class out of these guys?
No. I hear your theory. I hear your approach. I like it. I just think that I would want a year of development in my system, a year of knowing my schemes, a year of me having my hands on you as limited as I can put my hands on you, rather than go crapshoot with the next draft class. Hell, if COVID-19 comes back.
I disagree with that. Most teams, their rookie class, they really don't count on it to be good till the second year.
Yeah.
Okay. Other than the high,
I would argue to you that mine's rookie class didn't really play that well. The draftees, there was Wilkins, but two undrafted rookies outperformed him, and everybody else was just there. So,
all right, Omar. Our next question comes from Alexander. Which quarterback fits Chan Gailey's system better, Tua, Herbert, or Love?
This is, I feel like I'm going to be hedging on this question because I think they all fit. They all have the athleticism. They all have the pocket presence they all have the ability to throw on the move, to make RPO plays happen. So I think they all fit quite well. Which one would I prefer? I would prefer Tua because he's a proven winner. He's not a non-winner like Herbert or a guy who.
Wait a second. Let's switch this up. If you put Herbert on Alabama's team, you don't think he's going to win 12 games a year?
No, because I think he's going to shrink in clutch moments. I think he's going to not perform to the level that you need a winner to perform to take you to the SEC championship game or to take you to win the first round of the playoffs. I mean, look at his career. Look at his career. The Rose Bowl, the highlight of his careers have been his Rose Bowl win, which was very impressive, and his Senior Bowl performance, which he played two series, and really, he didn't really deserve the MVP. They just gave it to him because he was the biggest, most high-profile name.
Here's the hard thing with the quarterbacks, and I'm sure we're going to get into it a little for me. And again, I'm not a draftnik, but I talk to people, and they're always talking about if Herbert and Love got better coaching their senior years and had better, and especially with Love, had better people around them. Evidently, had no talent around them. They easier to judge. Where Tua obviously doesn't have that discussion. So you need to really, be a football technician and a offensive system technician beyond my knowledge to break down Herbert and Love and understand really what you're looking at and if there's more than what you saw, this senior year. Because Love obviously had a great junior year.
We're talking Tua and Herbert. Love, I'm kind of putting to the side because I don't think the Dolphins will select him, or at least I've been told that.
Omar.
What?
I'm kidding. A little small when you hear anything these days.
Yeah,
your radar goes up like, oh, wait a second.
Yeah. Here's the problem I have when you do a comparison, not factoring in injury, which I know is nearly impossible. Is Herbert a blank slate, a blank canvas that I think Chan Gailey wants to work with? Absolutely. He's got everything. He's got everything. If you want a quarterback to draw him up, it's Herbert, except for the fact if you're drawing up a quarterback on Madden, you don't want him to look like Herbert. You want him to play like Herbert. Problem is, when the pressure rises, he shrinks. And I don't like that quarterback. When the pressure rises on Tua, he elevates. You see Tua throwing receivers open, and I make this argument to people all the time, including people in the NFL, when they say, oh, it's the talent around him. I'm sorry, but when you throw a receiver a ball in stride that allows him to run after catch, that quarterback is helping that receiver, not vice versa. When you are able to step up in the pocket and evade a sack, and mobility in the pocket. No disrespect to the Dolphins' offensive lines, but how many sacks do you think Dan Marino's pocket presence saved? That's an important trait, and it helps the offensive lineman. So I say to everybody who says that Tua is elevated by the talent around him, you don't know what you're looking at, and you don't know what you're talking about.
Let me say this, Omar. Tua is elevated by the talent around him. Now, the question to me is how much? Because he obviously has talent.
Yes.
But to say he's not elevated and not helped by the talent around him is dismissing the fact that he has 3 first-round receivers he's throwing to this year. He did. And he's got, according to the scouts, he's got his entire offensive line will be starting in the NFL. So, yes, he was helped by that.
And so Auburn's entire defensive line. And LSU, they got a stable of talented NFL wide receivers. They got a stable of talented offensive linemen. I'm not.
Does Herbert though? Does Love?
Herbert's whole offensive line, they'll all be drafted. Herbert's tight end, he'll be drafted. He's only knocked down because of medical.
Omar, you would agree Oregon doesn't have the talent of Alabama. Herbert didn't have.
Nobody has the talent of Alabama. UM back in the heyday might not have the talent of Alabama, but
now you're really going overboard, Omar.
Okay. The end of the Coker era didn't have the talent of Alabama. The early Coker, they did.
The debate between best player available versus addressing team needs is an annual long debate fans and teams have had when it comes to draft time. What's your opinion which in your opinion is the right approach, Omar? And I think you sort of tipped your hand earlier.
Yeah. I'm a BPA. I learned from Jeff Ireland, BPA has to marry need. And if you need a quarterback, well, you gotta elevate them a little bit higher. If you need an offensive tackle, you gotta elevate them a little bit higher.
You learn from Jeff Ireland watching him or talking with him?
Talking with him. There's a lot that Ireland Parcells regime did well. That framework that they worked from is the exact same framework that we're working off right now. So don't deny that to yourself. So don't sit here and think that, oh, they didn't do it. They got the quarterback wrong many times, but don't act like this organization won't get the quarterback wrong one more time.
As Parcells, you do your work and you need to be a little lucky, they didn't. Jeff Ireland loved Russell Wilson.
Yep.
But he he
Talked
got
himself
a
out of
little
taking him.
nervous about taking him. So, and there you go. That's what it comes down to. You need to be lucky, I guess, or have the moxie.
They didn't have the field that Russell Wilson could hold up in the NFL, and just went with the safe thing and took Ryan Tannehill. Look where Seattle is right now, and look where the Dolphins are right now.
Omar, on this debate, I would say this is an easy one to answer for the Dolphins roster right now. Best player available or needs. They have needs across the board. They need good players everywhere, except they have two good cornerbacks, assuming they have two healthy cornerbacks.
They need a nickel.
You can always use more cornerbacks, but my point is, just go out and get good players. They need them, and in that sense, it's an easy draft for Chris Greer. It's not like he's got a decently built roster and they need a position or two to fill it out.
I think that this is a decently built roster. When you supplement in what's been added in free agency, I would right now cross off wide receiver and linebacker as positions that need to be addressed. Even though there's some talent in the draft, if you add one to that stable,
who's their slot receiver?
Damian Williams.
Who's their number one or number two receiver? I mean, Devontae Parker looked great last half of last year. Now, is that who he is? Again, 5 years now, you saw one great half season. You need more there, is be my point, not to dismiss Devontae Parker. I'm not settled that, this is great.
They have on their roster right now, by my count, 8 players who, when they get cut at wide receiver, they will play in the NFL for somebody else. So to me, do they need a marquee piece? Yeah, everybody needs a marquee.
That's, I guess, what I'm talking. When you say best player available, if I have a chance for greatness at a position,
Jerry Jeudy?
They need that guy. They need that guy, whoever it is.
Jerry Jeudy at 5, Dave? Jerry Jeudy at 5? Kentucky and Jerry Jeudy at 5?
You got so many needs at 5. I mean, tell me what you're going to do at quarterback. All right, Derek Vital has a good one. What position do the Dolphins need to prioritize in the first 2 rounds, and which ones can they wait on and still get solid players in the draft?
I will agree with you on this. You have to address the offensive tackle in the first 2 rounds. You have 6 selections up in that stratosphere. You got to walk away with it because you cannot wait till day 3 to do it. If you're waiting till day 3 to do it, we might as well send a 2nd round pick and go get Trent Williams. To me, offensive tackle is something you have to address. If not day 1, definitely day 2, because there's going to be a run on them and you're going to be left empty-handed. I would also say safety is a position that you have to address. Right now, to me, I don't think Bobby McCain is the perfect fit as that center fielder and safety. And Eric wrote, both of their safeties are guys who transition from cornerback to safety. I would like to have a legitimate safety who can play strong safety.
And remember, they made a play for Derek McCourty at New England this in free agency, according to the Boston Globe, and he obviously returned to the Patriots. So they know they need a safety, and the question becomes where do they get one to replace Minkah Fitzpatrick, by the way?
You had to throw that in there, Dave, did you?
Just perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny about this draft because I heard somebody say on ESPN yesterday, like, you traded away a premier left tackle and a premier safety to go get 3 draft picks, and Dan Orlovsky, who I think is doing a wonderful job on ESPN now, you traded away those players to get 3 first-round draft picks with the goal of getting the quarterback. Now, what happens if you don't get the quarterback? Do you just select the offensive tackle and the safety and just have younger players with less polish and less that aren't proven? Like, what sense does that make?
Tank for tackle, tank for a safety. I mean, I agree. That's why when you say, Omar, you'd find with them not taking a quarterback.
Yeah.
Wait a second. The whole purpose of this whole past year of trading the players, of sacrificing, whether you say they tanked or they didn't, they sacrificed last season, was to get a quarterback.
Not just any quarterback, Dave.
I think, we don't
Not
need
just
a quarterback.
any quarterback.
We need a tackle. We need a tackle, Omar. Wait, they had a tackle. They had a safety. So, I mean.
Hey, that tackle wants a ridiculous amount of money right now. So, yeah, and we knew that.
the Dolphins have a lot of money to spend still.
And just spent a lot of it. But this actually brings us to our next question. Joel Braga as a good one. And I like where this question is going because this is where my mind is going. What do you think about a trade proposal that would give a second-round pick Miami acquired from the Texans to Washington for Pro Bowl offensive tackle Trent Williams to address that need now before the draft?
Let me throw out a ridiculous trade proposal that Houston's making such bizarre moves, okay? I'm going to just in casual conversation say, by the way, what if we gave you 3 number 1 draft picks for Deshaun Watson? I'm just going to throw that out there before getting onto this one. And look, it has a 1% chance of happening. But whatever Bill O'Brien's doing over there, I want to take advantage of it right now. And so
you want in on the fire sale, Dave.
I want in what's going on over there. The Dolphins really got in the first one when the Laramie Tunsil trade. They got a lot for him. Okay, but the Trent Williams question, and Washington's asking for a first-round pick. Okay, and we'll see if they get it. Would you give up one of the second-round picks for Trent Williams, and obviously his contract? Because he's going to get big money. So that's the question I would wrestle with if I'm the Dolphins. That would keep me up wake me up at 3:00 in the morning and bolt out of bed and think about.
I would actually not only just make that trade, a second-round pick next year. I know he's 31. I know he's going to make $12.5 million and is shaking down whoever's going to trade for him for a $15 million a year contract. You're probably going to only get him for 3 good seasons, but I do it in a heartbeat, Dave.
Wait, around next year? No, this year. Make it hurt a little.
I'd do it for 26. I would do it for 26, and I'd want you to throw in your 4th-round pick. I would do it. Absolutely. If you tell me I can get a Pro Bowl player for 26 right now, and Trent Williams, and he can play the most important position that I've got, the biggest hole that I've got to fill, and even if I make him play on that $2.5 million deal, give it to me right now. I take it.
Yeah, you're going to have to redo his deal. You make the trade knowing you're going to give him a contract. Why?
He's also got a troublesome medical, so I'm not sure I would do that until I can get my doctor's hands on him. So that might have to wait. I don't think it can be done in this draft. You'd have to have him pass a physical because he couldn't pass his physical last year to play for the Washington at the end of the year. So I
like the framework of that trade, though. Yes. Now, can you work out the particulars? That's the issue, including the physical, which obviously is huge considering his issues last year. Okay, Breeze FAU has our final question. What's the most underrated position of need?
Oh, to me, it's easy, the tight end. If you really look at that position, Mike Gesicki is a glorified slot receiver. That's how he was used last year. If you're a Dolphin fan and you don't know that, I can't help you because you clearly don't know what you're looking at. He was not working on the line. He was not serving as a tight end. He was a slot receiver or a H player or a move player. You could call it whatever you want, but they utilized him as a slot receiver. And I have a belief that Changeli will probably utilize him in the same way unless he comes back 20 pounds stronger and can finally work on the line. And to be honest with you, Durham Smythe has done nothing for the last 2 years. He's an okay player. Does he necessarily belong in the NFL? If he was cut tomorrow, would teams be lining up trying to sign him? My answer to that question is probably not. I would need to upgrade and find a player that I think can play on the line of scrimmage and be a good player. I'm a big fan of Dayton tight end Adam Troutman. I'm a fan of the FAU tight end. Is Hunter Bryant or Harrison Bryant? I can't remember which one he is. And the FAU tight end, he's buzzing. He's going to do well for himself. And I really would select one of those guys probably in the 4th round.
Well, here, Omar, I'm going to read you from Bill Belichick's scouting report. Okay, his internal report on what to look for in players. Talking about tight ends. And this is in all caps and underlined. Don't let the lack of blocking ability eliminate a good player. So that in a nutshell is Mike Gesicki, right?
Yet,
I mean,
yet all his tight ends could block.
so don't if he can develop and keep developing as he did through last year into the third year, they got something there. So I'm going to go on the other side of the line for the most sort of underrated position of need, and that's defensive tackle. And
Absolutely.
they have a couple there, but when you look at their run, how they got run on last year, and I just want a run stuffer in there. I want to have somebody who can play that role and go in there and plug up a running game because they didn't have that last year. And until they show they can do that, teams are just going to keep running on them up the middle.
Absolutely. Not just that, but Godchow is entering the final year of his deal. He's looking for a significant deal, and I'm not necessarily certain the Dolphins are going to hand it to him. So you might be starting all over with another defensive tackle. So definitely adding a guy. I'm a big fan of Utah's Luki Fotu. He's a player that I think could definitely help this defense. So yes, would I even select a defensive tackle in the first round? I would actually.
Yeah. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all.
I'm sorry, but if you're not going to go quarterback, I'm okay with you selecting Derek Brown at 5. He is one of the 5 elite players in this draft. If he's there, he would instantly, in my mind, make this a top 10 defense.
Top 10 defense. There we go. Now we're coming out with the big guns, Omar. I like that.
Top 10 defense.
So now they got the best quarterback in the AFC East and the top 10 defense. If they get, they're a contending team now, right?
Now you see my vision, Dave. Now you see my vision.
Are they a contending team, Omar?
No. Till they get the quarterback, they're not a contending team.
Okay.
Now we get to the official final question of X's and Omar. I want you, Dave Hyde, to give me your ideal 3 first-round selections. I want names.
To me, this whole year got away from the Dolphins. Their whole plan went up in smoke. And between winning the last 2 games, which would have given them the first-round pick overall, and Tua's injury. Now, in one sense, Tua's injury, if anything, you can write it as a benefit. Because if he was not hurt, he'd be going second in the draft. Okay?
Correct.
And so they'd either have to trade up or they'd have no shot at him, one or the other. So in a weird, unfortunate kind of way for Tua, that his injury at least kept the Dolphins in the game. And, okay, let me answer your question, because when people do mock drafts, my whole question is, are they picking how they think it'll happen or what they would do? I am thinking more and more the Dolphins are going to take Tua, okay? And I would be really scared to do so because of his injuries, okay? It just doesn't bode well for what's going to happen when he starts playing more against better competition, and the talent protecting him isn't as good as it was against the talent in college. So I'm just concerned about that, and I wouldn't take him. But I think the Dolphins are going to roll the dice and take him. Take a tackle with the second pick, and whether that's moving up in a trade to get one of the 4 guys who everybody rates higher, maybe they have to do that. And then again, as I mentioned earlier, I would go with the Cesar Ruiz in the 26th pick, and I'd solidify my offensive line.
I like your draft. I'm
not a draft night though, Omar.
I'm a supporter of your draft. I would actually piggyback and do the same thing. I'm taking Tua. I'm not trading up for him. If somebody wants him ahead of me, fine. Go ahead and do what you need to do. And if he's not there at 5, I'd probably take Jerry Jeudy. I think Jerry Jeudy will be an elite wide receiver in this draft. I'm sticking and believing in BPA. And let's say Tua isn't there and you do take Jerry Jeudy, I'm going to select Jordan Love with 18. I think he's a young developmental quarterback. Yes, I understand the concerns and fears about whether South Florida will eat him up and gobble him up and just take him and he belonged to the streets. But I would hope that this young man can see that if he plays well and becomes a quarterback he has the potential to be, he could be sitting on a $200 million quarterback. I mean, $200 million contract. So I would do that. And then with my third pick, I know this is going to upset you, Dave. I know this doesn't sit well with you from the fundamental standpoints of everything that you believe, but I'm taking DeAndre Swift because I believe that in 10 years from now, when we look back at this draft, everybody's going to say, why did DeAndre Swift go in the second round?
Okay.
And it's the same thing.
I'm bored with that idea, Omar. If you think he's special that way, I'm fine with taking him. But if you think he's going to be a pretty good running back, a value running back, and no, get somebody else. If you think he's going to be special, go get him.
If I told you he's going to be better than Nick Chubb, would you take him in the first?
Is Nick Chubb? No, because is Nick Chubb
1,200 yards.
He's very good. He's very good. There's
Yes.
three backs probably in the league who are the make the difference backs, and Todd Gurley isn't that guy anymore. Okay, so Christian McCaffrey and Ezekiel Elliott. So other than that, yeah, there's better and there's worse, but they're all replaceable to me.
I hear you, but I want to look back at my draft 5 years from now and say, man, I don't have enough money to pay all these guys because all these guys are studs. That's how I want to look back at my draft. And to do that, I think I have to take DeAndre Swift at 26. Now, I hope he falls in the second and I can get him in the second, but I want the best back in this draft, not just a good back. I want the best.
Okay. All right. I want to build my offensive line and I'll get a good back. But I see what you're saying. And
I'm leaving my team exposed, especially the fact that I took Tua. Well, if I don't take Tua, then I gotta kill it in the second day with offensive line. I just build a whole offensive line in the second day. So,
yeah, but that's a good place to build an offensive line too. So, here, besides the quarterback, my question, I want to come out of this draft saying they finally spent a draft investing in the big uglies on each side of the line. You look at how they have not paid any attention to the lines and over the past 10 years.
That's not fair. They paid attention. They just haven't made good selections.
They haven't drafted many either. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the numbers say
Dallas Thomas, Billy Turner, Jamal Davis.
You can pick out players, yes, but when you add up the numbers, they drafted half the number that the Patriots and the Ravens have drafted on lines.
You're right.
The last 2 years.
You're right. If you want to build a strong physical team, you got to start in the trenches. So I'm all aboard. So, but I do still say I'm a BPA guy. I got to stick with what I know. I got to stick with BPA. Well, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us. We'll be doing some more conversations during draft week. Draft is on Thursday. But we will be back on sunsentinel.com. Thanks for watching.
Be safe. Guys, thanks. We're doing it again Monday, is that right?
We're doing a chat with Saf, just a draft chat. We'll just